I'm Greg Marsh. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a company called One Fine Stay, which we describe as being halfway between a boutique hotel and a holiday letting company. We offer people who come to London for short periods of time an alternative to a hotel by staying in a distinctive private home for a few days and nights with all the fun of a hotel and all the excitement of staying in a real private home and living like a local. I started the company 18 months ago with two other people, a guy called Dimitrios Zopos, who I've known for many years and was the co-founder of the last business I worked at, and a guy called Tim Davey, who is a brilliant young technologist who is out in Silicon Valley working for his own startup over there and returned to London to found the company with us. I've worked in and around startups all of my professional life, and I think once you spend a bit of time in a startup company, you catch a bug. At least I do. And I knew I wanted to start my own business again, and I knew it was just a matter of finding the right opportunity, the right team, and the right time. My journey to starting One Fine Stay is a bit unusual. It's actually the second time I've been part of the early team in a startup company. But in the meantime, I actually spent several years working for a venture capital firm, which meant that I saw a lot of business plans from a lot of entrepreneurs and spent a lot of time thinking about how you raise money for and finance a startup company. We launched the company just under 12 months ago now, and we have been running like crazy ever since. It's been a very frenetic period, a very exciting period, and we've been, especially over the last 6 months, really growing very quickly. I think raising money is the hardest thing by far that businesses have to do. It's always extremely tough to raise money from external people. An investor always has the option of saying, maybe not this month, maybe in a month or two. But of course you don't have the option of waiting 2 months. You've got to hit payroll at the end of the month. What we found hard was persuading people before we'd launched that we were going to be able to launch. What we did to secure our initial capital was we put together a very short proposal, almost deliberately short. It was really just a page or two. And the reason we kept it so brief was, in a funny way, we weren't really asking people to invest in a business. We were asking people to invest in us. Now, I think our attitude right from the start was we cut our cloth to fit our means. We were able to raise a small amount of money from friends and family, but to some extent we designed the business such that it was a company we could start with a relatively small amount of money. We assumed that it was going to take at least a couple of years to get things off the ground. We made sure that we had at least 24 months of personal runway before we started the company. Both of us had saved quite carefully for many months before starting, in my case for nearly 3 years before starting the business. And probably like quite a lot of startups, I have to admit, I borrowed a little bit of time from my employer before we formally started the business. Everyone gets turned down for funding. We also got turned down for funding. It doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what experience you've got, you're asking someone to put a lot of faith and a lot of trust in you. And anyone who you're asking for money from probably has other people they can give that money to. The hardest thing of all is being turned down by friends. They never quite know what to say. I usually made it as easy as possible for them by telling them that I wouldn't hold it against them and telling them that they should only invest what they can afford to lose. One of the hardest decisions we made as a business came towards the end of last year, when we had to decide whether we wanted to raise venture capital. We'd had some interest from external investors, but when you decide to take that decision, it's an existential decision for the business, because what you're doing is you're giving away a large part of your company to someone else, and you're often giving away a lot of control as well. I'm still sometimes kept awake at night by wondering what would have happened if we hadn't gone down that path. If we continued to fund the business organically, we probably wouldn't have been able to grow as fast. It would have been quite hard work, but we would have kept control of the business. And I think if I had any regrets, it would be not quite having the guts to take that very difficult straight and narrow path. The best sort of funding in general is funding from your customers. And one of the great things about One Fine Stay is that we take cash several months often before people come in to stay in London. So for us, early on in the business's life, that was a great source of cash. It meant that even with a relatively small amount of startup capital, we were able to support the costs of growth. And as we scale now, it's increasingly valuable. It means that a significant amount of the capital the company has an access to is actually capital from customers who it's going to be serving shortly.